Hello and welcome to a brand new Five Heart Podcast live, 9 o'clock in the Central Time Zone, God's favorite time zone. I'm your host, Greg Mahoshko, and joining me this week, look, it's a familiar face, just not grizzled and gray. No John Dam Johnston tonight. No Tweedy, who's working, and we're joined by Corn Nation columnist, contributor, writer extraordinaire, Nate McHugh. Nate, what's up, buddy?
Not much. My wife decided to get rid of all of our chairs today. We're having we are not. Our neighbor is having. Well, our town is having a garage sale, and our neighbor was very nice to take all of our chairs. So now I am sitting in here in a folding chair at our kitchen table. So
nice.
Yes.
Nice. I am. I'm sitting in a chair that's older than me. It's a kitchen table chair. The kitchen table that's that way. It was my parents', and for whatever reason, however many years back when I moved out and they were upgrading their table, said, "Here's a table and the chairs that go with it." And my wife hates it, so this table chair set will not be joining us when we relocate. I'd be surprised if it lasts that long, honestly.
Well, as long as you got out of it what you could, right?
I tell you what, for a free dining table or kitchen table and chair set, we've got our money's worth. So no, I'm excited. I'm excited to sit down with you. Good to see your smiling, shiny, happy face. And the only thing I don't know, because this is the first time I'm using this particular software or streaming service, StreamYard here, is I don't know if anybody's out there. And I say that because we're live. We do have some viewers, but usually we have some comments. Somebody chimes in and says, "Hey, hi guys," or something like that. So if you're there, let us know. But we have a big topic tonight because it's the off season. But before we get to that big topic, Mike, no, you're not Mike. You're Nate. Mike's there on my other podcast. Hey, James, how we doing? Let's see here. James Boardman says chair talk with Greg and Nate. It's not gonna. The chair talk, I think, is over. Fred, who's a regular, actually James is a regular too. I'm later than one of our former head coach's trysts. Who's Nate? Nate is, if you don't know, Nate's been with Corn Nation probably almost as long as I have. But he writes football. Used to write for basketball quite a bit. But you have more kids than I do, and you do a lot of coaching as well. So you're very big in your community. We'll just put it that way.
Well, I try to be. Not everyone appreciates it, but that's kind of the whole idea, right? If you're any coaching, some people are gonna like you, some won't. So, as far as James goes, I mean, if we want to keep talking about chairs, I mean, we can keep going, but probably not.
No, unless you know how to refinish, reupholster, like vintage chairs, which I don't. I'd watch a show about it, but I don't want to be on that show. No, so and Matt, we see your comment. We're going to definitely address future schedules. Have you Wade so I guess it's best 2 out of 3, right? The Women's College World Series.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma won last night, and then they obviously won tonight. Looks like
Wade says Oklahoma women just won. So is it bad that I was kind of rooting for Florida State?
I don't know. I don't think either is a win, but what I kind of like, well, I actually watched some of it last night.
Mm-hmm.
And
Same.
I guess Oklahoma, when they win, and I didn't watch it to the end, but I guess when they win, they're very, let's say, outgoing in their celebrations.
They gotcha.
To an extent, I guess it upsets a lot of the other, they said players, like coaches and administrators and athletic directors, and I'm like, I actually want to see what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're probably having fun. I don't know. I'm also not invested in it like Florida State, so that's easy for me not to care, right? So
Wade says that the pitcher, I'm assuming from Oklahoma, is from Papillion, Nebraska. So I guess congratulations to her and the rest of the Soonerettes. Terrell Farley's Taint says, the only sport more boring than baseball? It's curling. We all know it's curling. All right. He said soccer. I really thought he was going softball, but he said soccer. Excellent. So there was a comment up, and I do have it marked to bring up, but I don't know if you saw this today, Nate. We got some information on what the Big Ten is going to look like in 2024 and in 2025 after the additions of USC and UCLA. I'm sure you saw that. You had to, right?
Yeah, I saw a few things about it. And I'm probably the wrong person to have on here when it comes to schedule releases because I really could not care less about what it's going to look like in 2024 and 2025. I mean, it's interesting, kind of. But like, my mind is just like, okay, we play Minnesota first, right?
Yep.
Like, that's like, and I know it's the off season, so we'll talk about whatever, but my focus is on Minnesota. So, it's hard for me to get too pumped about it because it is what it is, and it's like that 2025 schedule where we play Ohio State, Michigan, USC, and UCLA. That's like 2 years down the road.
Sure.
It's like hard for me to really like get too up in arms about that. And I guess if Matt Rule has a track record, it's that third year. It's really a really strong year, and he's going to have quite the opportunity to put up some quality wins, and you might have the toughest schedule in the country.
Yeah, taking a quick look, I mean, that far down the road, 2025, Nebraska is going to play at Maryland, at Minnesota, at Ohio State, at USC, home games against Illinois, Iowa, Michigan, Rutgers, UCLA. That's going to be a lot of competitive football. As far as 2024, Iowa, Northwestern, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA all on the road, and then 4 home games that year in the conference: Indiana, Michigan State, Minnesota, Wisconsin. So the, I guess, protected rivalry games that Nebraska is going to have are going to be Iowa, Minnesota, and UCLA. Now, I would really interested in your thoughts on that selection. I believe Trev Albert said that he, when you could write down your top 3 choices and we'll see what we can do. He said Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. First of all, ink's been put on paper. It's too late, but I'm just still really against UCLA and USC joining the Big Ten. I don't think it makes sense geographically. I don't think it makes sense for classic football, rivalry. I just don't think it makes sense. But all that being said, when you have Iowa, you get 2 out of 3, right? That's what Meatloaf used to sing. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, or isn't 2 out of 3? Yeah, it is ain't bad. So you get Minnesota, Iowa, and then UCLA. They really must have just drawn that one out of a hat. It doesn't make any sense to me. We have a little bit of recent home and homes with them, but other than that, it's just, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't think it's going to, but when you add USC and UCLA, it's just for money. You're getting the LA market. As far as expansion goes, I'm interested to see if we keep adding teams from the West. But Iowa has 3 protected. Okay, you could look at it however you want. Iowa has 3 protected rivals. And I think they're permanent because I think there's each team has 3 protected rivals, but then there's so many that have permanent protected rivals. Is that what I saw today? That where Iowa has 3 and Nebraska's only permanent is Iowa, so we only have 1. I know I saw that somewhere.
I was seeing, in the comments and elsewhere, but I just don't know how to interpret all the data. So bad on me.
Well, It's for as far as my view. As long as we play Iowa every year, I'm okay. I can deal with that because there's just how Iowa reminds me a lot of Colorado when we were in the Big 12 and how much I just hated them. How every time they played, I wanted them to lose. I only had that with Colorado, and now I have that with Iowa. So uh, I'm glad we get to play them every year. Minnesota, some people say that was a budding rivalry. I don't really think it is. They kind of just beat our asses every year. It feels like, and we got this. Oh, we got that trophy, the $5 bits chair or whatever. That
$5 bits of broken chair trophy.
Okay, and
for charity.
Yeah, for charity. And so is that? I mean, I'm not really sure that it's anywhere close to a rivalry, but some people disagree, obviously. So Wisconsin, that's kind of I almost respect them a little bit more. I don't know. And so I just don't have the hate. To me, Robert, there's I never hated Oklahoma, but I hated Colorado, and and that's what I enjoy. And so that's why I'm glad we play Iowa every year.
Do you think, while we're drawing that comparison or that analogy, Iowa's the new Colorado for you? Would you say that Wisconsin's maybe the new Oklahoma from that respect level? Now, obviously, we're not two programs that are battling for national championships every year that are in the top 5 all the time. But I mean, a lot of what they did up until, conceivably this 2023 season was really modeled after Nebraska, after Nebraska in the heyday. So there was a little bit of, respect or maybe, polite admiration from the standpoint of, yeah, they're doing it the way we used to do it.
Maybe, I don't know. It's really hard. It's hard to, I respect Wisconsin, but the respect for Oklahoma is I don't know. It almost felt like you're I don't know, twin brother. I don't know. It's been, I don't know. It's like there's just a lot more with Oklahoma that you feel that there's a connection there. I don't really have that with Wisconsin. But what I'm interested, I guess not too much of a tangent, but they're moving. They're going away from what's been working at Wisconsin to an air raid. And so it's like an air raid, but I can't believe that. So I'm very interested to see, if that is successful there, because Nebraska went to the West Coast offense, went away from what was working, and 22 years later, here we are. So.
Fred says we haven't been good enough to have any other rivals other than Iowa with the border war. Fred would pick Wisconsin as a second just because they ran it up on us and they play our version of football in some aspects. And then Matt Hansen says polite admiration for Wisconsin. Nope. That's not the best wording. And I fully got that. I just didn't know how else to express it. Yeah, they're not a-holes like Colorado. They're not, throwing.
Well, my understanding is the fans there are terrible. My understanding, that someone in the comments can correct me, but when I went to the Colorado game, what year was that? But I've never been sworn at so much in my life, and it was like one of the last years in the Big 12.
Wow.
Just walking down the tunnel, F you, Herbie, and all this stuff. I'm like, geez, and so I don't know, maybe Wisconsin's like that too, but that's what I've heard. I have never had that, experience. Maybe if I went to a Wisconsin game and they did treat me like that, then maybe I'll bump them up a little bit.
Okay. I got a couple back-to-back comments here I got to highlight here. When talking about the protected rivals, James Boardman says that Penn State has 0 protected, and then because it's Fred, and if you were on the show more frequently, Nate, you know all about Fred. But Fred says Penn State protected 0 kids during Sandusky's era. So well played, Fred. Again, we are ever appreciative of the regular, the Chatterfields, as we call them here in the comments in the chat. So as we look at more of this conference realignment. Let's see. Wade Farr says don't like Minnesota because of Rowboat Man.
But the thing is about Rowboat Man is he wins, right? And he plays football how we would, his team plays football how we would love Nebraska to play, just like huge offensive linemen, run the ball, And so like I get it because I think the guy's a used car salesman, but man, he wins, He's turned.
Whatever he's done, he's from that used car salesman vernacular, he's got that team to buy in, and he's getting everything he can, I think, out of every. I say maybe the biggest difference between PJ Fleck and HCSF is Fleck was getting every bit he could. He's squeezing every bit of talent and ability out of his players, and maybe had less talent or ability, whereas Scott Frost had maybe on paper better players, but he wasn't maximizing potential because there was not a ton of player development being done in Lincoln.
There's a lot of things not being done in Lincoln, as far as that goes.
Well,
but if Fleck is the used car salesman, Matt Rule is the preacher, all right? I mean, he's even the son of a preacher, right? And you got to get that feeling. And from everyone I've talked to, that he seems to, Matt Rule is very genuine. And so whatever works, man, if like whatever works, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, it's getting results, back in the day, years 1 and 2 and maybe even 3 of the HCSF era, Haas Reuter used to talk about incremental improvement. And then as that was not being shown, he says we need drastic improvement. I actually talked with Haas for about an hour, maybe a little bit more earlier this week. And he's in a good spot, hopes to, join us, pop in from time to time here, maybe in the off season or in the fall, as he's, into his career now. But he's willing to be patient with Matt Rule, to an extent. Obviously, he's like, if we come out and we shit the bed and win 2 games or 3 games and it's a step backwards, then, we have to look at it again, a bigger systematic issue. But if 6-7 wins, something like that, if the discipline is better, if the development is improved, then yeah, we can work back towards that incremental improvement.
I was looking at a couple of the comments, and one of them talked about, what's it, Illinois protected, or like what, Purdue and
yep, here we go. James Marshall.
Illinois says, Purdue, Northwestern. And so, and it kind of sucks, and you're like, man, for them, I mean, those are 2 easy games,
right?
And particularly Northwestern right now. But I think as long as Nebraska is getting these more difficult schedules, the reason why is because we bring eyeballs to the television, right? Yep. And so that's why they're going to put us up against USC, UCLA, Ohio State, Michigan, because of the television, and because these networks want the best matchups they can, and we're going to get the brunt of it. So, I guess it's a good thing in a way, but man, we really need wins.
And kind of along that line, like, Fred Sacco said a little bit ago, talking about 2025, he said it's not murderer's row, but the 2025 season's not awesome. Funny how Ohio State got Illinois and Northwestern for their first 2 years rotation. 4 wins right there for them. And look,
which is counter kind of to what I just said, right? I guess.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's just my understanding is, we need some help from the schedule, but Big Ten also wants to cut some checks, right?
Yeah.
So,
and to that point, because right or wrong, when you have these media rights and Big Ten Network, Fox, that conglomerate is shelling out the insane amount of money that they are, like they can, right or wrong, whether it's actually happening or whether it's just implied, they can say, you know what, I think USC Michigan on a Saturday night sounds pretty interesting. I think Ohio State, like they, again, I don't know for sure that it's happening, but I wouldn't be surprised, because when there's that much money involved, you can, all right, oh, you want this money? Well, we want these matchups.
Yeah.
And Joel Tilson's kind of in agreement with you, was your idea first, but he says ratings will go through the roof next year. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I also don't understand how, I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but you have UCLA, USC on the West Coast. If they have a conference game at Penn State
or Rutgers
or Maryland, and it's an 11 o'clock, that's 8 o'clock in the morning for these guys. Think about that. Like, just again, geographically speaking, none of this makes any sense. But
well, we're also called the Big Ten, and we have 16 teams. So
right. Well, we're
and I was thinking about that. It might suck. It might hurt the programs, USC and UCLA, to have to come. I guess they say it's usually easier to come east than it is to go west, as far as.
I think to an extent, because again, if you're Ohio State and you're used to playing at 11 o'clock in the morning Central, or noon, noon kickoff, and now you're playing at 7 o'clock at night, or what is 10 o'clock for your body normally. That you're right, because there's that anxiety of sitting around all day waiting for kickoff.
Well, I guess the other side of the coin is, if you have let's see. Oh, never mind. Yeah, so if it's a 7, no, you'll get that. I bet we'll get that late primetime matchup, like the 9 o'clock matchup, right? Like the big Pac-12 after dark type of thing.
Right.
So, so that might help the team, the USC or UCLA. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't. And again, can you as a conference dictate, okay, well, when you're playing a conference game, the latest kickoff that you're going to have at home is going to be that 2:30, 3 o'clock Central time? I mean, you just can't.
Well, they're trying to do that with not allowing these night games for, past the first week in November.
Right.
That's kind of, the networks, wasn't that, Kevin Warren essentially said, oh yeah, we'll make it happen, without having the power to do so, So I saw a tweet earlier today that, did I retweet that? I might have, but yeah, here it is. It's from Dustin Schutte. Said some of my favorite Big Ten rivalries that are not protected, and one of them is Nebraska versus Kevin Warren.
Yeah, that one's over. Yeah. James Marshall makes a good point. USC at Lincoln on a chilly Saturday night could be captivating.
Absolutely.
I mean, let's not. It snows in Washington. I guess sometimes, maybe, I don't know. I've only been in Washington in July. It didn't snow there, thank God. And then Joel says West Coast teams always find a way to get used to the East Coast.
Yeah, that'd be true.
Fred with an interesting one here. No divisions hurts us, because it's going to be like pods and groups, things like that. He says, sad how we pissed away the last decade for the most part in the weakest division in Power 5. That's a pretty true statement.
Well, it's not as weak as the NL division or the NL Central, but no, you don't pay attention to your Cardinals? No,
I do. So. That's why I'm just grinning and not responding. Because if I didn't know, I'd be like, "What you talking about there, Nate?"
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I would definitely say we have pissed away the past decade for sure.
Yep. And Joel is not off the mark again. I don't. Joel says, I see 2014 playoffs in the future which will be big bucks for all. I think the only downside to that, and I don't know, you'd almost have to get started the week after conference championship games.
You would have to probably start the season early. I mean, in the middle of the summer almost. Like
it's you almost be getting to the point where teams that are making it to like the national championship teams almost at that rate would be playing more games than the NFL. Give or take. I mean,
yeah, well, if we're still at 12.
Don't do the math. We're at 13. Conference champions at 13. NFL, they don't have a conference champion, so they're 17.
Yeah.
If they're that good, bye week, then they only have, shut up. All right, I'm moving on. Yeah. Joel says December Madness instead of March Madness. It would be, football's not basketball, and I just think that they're still going to need time to recover the body in that regard. So. All right, we got to highlight this because you reacted to it. I wasn't going to sell it, but since you did, the last place Cardinals are the only National League Central team with a positive run differential.
That is something to hang your hat on. So,
yep. All right, a couple of comments here about the SEC. Fred says 2014 playoff, and they'd still skew it to get over to get half a dozen SEC teams into it by front loading preseason top 25 ratings. I don't disagree. That's why the SEC is where it is, because their ESPN has a direct financial interest. And Wade said this earlier in the show. Why do we play 9 and SEC only 8? Play 8 conference games? Because nobody in the SEC, and I didn't mean to cut you off there, but nobody in the SEC wants to man up play that 9th game.
And they don't have to, right?
Yeah.
As long as they're pumping out the most NFL draft picks, and as long as they're still getting 2 in the playoff, it's like, why should they? I think it's unless the committee or whoever's going to say, hey, we're going to look at strength of schedule. But SEC still might say, "Oh yeah, we play 8 SEC games."
Yeah.
Unless something happens, my thought was that these networks might be like, no. If you want to get some extra money, then we need another week of SEC football, right?
And so maybe that's what it'll take,
Yeah, and so until somebody forces them. I guess I think it's going to happen. I think they voted on it, and it was like 3/4 of the league said no.
Right. I remember I was going to say the same thing. They had a recent, again, athletic directors, I think, who made that vote, and only 3 teams, I think, said, "Oh, we'll play a 9th game." So, and one of them was Georgia. I want to say maybe Florida and Vandy. I don't know. Like
Texas A&M. Georgia, LSU, and like
maybe. I know it was in Alabama, maybe Auburn. And like whatever we got to, and I keep going back to this reference because I have it committed to memory. But whatever we have to do to not have Alabama tune up for the Iron Bowl by playing Mercer or Citadel the week before, it's like, come on.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Who are you kidding?
It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Before we move on to our next topic and away from schedules, Fred asks, as Fred always asks, important stuff. What's Greg drinking? A bottle of John's Tears. Fred is having Dan the Wiser Kolsch from Kincaider. And I am drinking something from Maine. Nate and Fred and everybody else. It is Allagash, I don't know, white. It is a Belgian-style wheat beer. It's very similar to a Blue Moon, but maybe just a hint more bitter. Not in a put-off way, but it is 5.2% ABV, brewed and bottled by Allagash Brewing Company in Portland, Maine. Maine.
I'm drinking sparkling ice. Cherry limeade.
Yeah. Cherry limeade's good. I think black raspberry is better, in my opinion.
The orange mango is my favorite. So
you're insane. Ralph with the good one here. Last UCLA game, December 26, 2015. Nebraska 37, UCLA 29. Remember the game well, and it wasn't that close. And I'll never forget that game because that's the first game I watched with my son. I mean, he was a few days old and probably sleeping, but it was on my little iPad mini in the NICU there. But that was a good one. That was a fun one to watch. So, with all that being said, Nate,
yep,
we got this comment here. And I'm going to do the comment. I'm trying something new. Again, this is new streaming platform that we're using, StreamYard. Tell us what you think about it. I know John likes it because he got it for free for a year. But Terrell Farley's Taint says, how about the Buford commit? 2025 schedule is brutal, and we discussed that. But, yeah, let's see. Oh, that is not what I would. Never mind. All right. Apparently, I'm not going to do what I thought I was going to do, but I do have this image to show. There he is. Mario Buford, a 4-star commit out of DeSoto, Texas, cornerback. And he made the announcement just earlier tonight via Instagram. And you know, I don't know if cornerback's where we need the most help, but we'll take any help we can get, right?
Yeah, and I find it interesting that he has a brother that currently plays for Nebraska, Marquise Buford, and so there must be that Rule and his staff must be doing something right. That because Marquise came here in Frost, right? And
yes.
So, you sometimes with that coaching change, you'll hear that you don't like the new assistant coach or the new position coach, and obviously Marquise is impressed enough that, hey, I'm sure he told his brother, come on down, right? And so he's out of Texas, which is might turn into our bread and butter, going forward with Rule and his experience there. But I think I saw Mario's a 27th ranked player in the state, maybe, or is that, and like the 84th in the country or something like that. So, I mean, he's a good player. So, I mean, do we need defensive backs? I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't really checked that out or not. But if you can't have too many good players, I guess.
No. Get all the I suppose quality athletes you can. I didn't even put together that it was the younger brother of the current Buford that we have on the squad. It just right over my head. But you're right. Whenever there's a coaching transition, I think it's a nice vote of confidence for the rest of the players, other recruits that, like, Marquise Buford's been here for a few years now, very comfortable and said, hey, come to Lincoln. Maybe we're going to be seeing some good stuff. That is jumping up there too early.
Well, see, our defensive backs coach, Evan Cooper, supposedly he's an all-star. And so people have said, it'd be nice to keep him around as long as possible, but he's probably going to get a better job at some point. So just keep it up.
And Fred makes a good point. In the 3-3-5 defense, more defensive backs won't hurt. So going to need a lot of fresh bodies in that one. So now I'm putting this one up there. This is a statement, and Joel sounds very confident in it. I haven't seen if that's actually the case, but that is not the right one. Iowa is the first game in 2024. I can't imagine they'd bump that off of Black Friday.
I think that Joel, maybe you know better than me, but I think when they published, they just went by home games and away games. It's not actually like the order, right? I think.
I mean, as I'm looking for it, it's in they have the away games. It's in alphabetical order.
Okay.
Because like for example, 2025, it says the away games are Maryland, Minnesota, Ohio State, USC. The home games in 2024 are Indiana, Michigan State, Minnesota, Wisconsin. So I think it's more. Joel, you scared me. But I think it's more alphabetical order than actually where they line up in the schedule. And thank you again, Nate, for closing your shower curtain.
Well, you're welcome. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah.
What'd I do?
Why are we playing? I don't like playing a Big Ten team the first game of the year. I just don't. Like, maybe I just had PTSD from the Northwestern game last year, but like, why are we playing Minnesota game 1, right? Somebody obviously agreed to that, and maybe it's, again, for television reasons, but I just, I guess if you could go back and do it, and like, if you knew that, well, here's Matt Rule's first year, you probably don't. You try to get out of that game, right, and try to move it. But
I think once it's set, it's set. I
know that, but I'm saying
if
you could look into the future when you were setting it. So
right. All right. So that covers our first 2 topics, and I guess real quick, because it says in the title of the show, Nebraska's rivals are committed on a trip to Hollywood. It's worth noting that 1 year Nebraska men's basketball player and Nebraska native Sam Geisel?
Sammy
G. Was in a movie, and I think is trying to make Hollywood his home.
Well, good for him. I wish we had one more year of him on the basketball floor, but
yeah,
Greasel, right?
Sure, I like Sammy G.
I like having really tall point guards. That's what I like.
Yeah. You want to talk about Keisei Tominaga coming back?
I think that's a really big deal. I think that Nebraska I think if they're not at least on the bubble next year for the NCAA tournament, I think it's a disappointing year. I think they're up. Bryce Williams, I'm really excited to watch him play. Tominaga, I think the last 9 games of the year averaged like 20 points a game.
Yeah.
And we easily could have gone 8-1 like in the last 9 games. And so it's like, I think Hoiberg is figuring this thing out.
Mm-hmm.
The fact, I still pinch myself when I'm like, man, we have Fred Hoiberg as our head men's basketball coach. And I know he has not been, the record has not indicated and that he's done a great job. I think he's willing to actually swallow his pride because I think he really wants to win here. And because I promise you, he could take a check and then go coach in the NBA. I'm pretty sure. And so I'm excited for Tominaga. He's fun to watch. But I think now the expectations for this next upcoming year is much higher than I think people realize.
I'll say this, in regular Chatterfields know, I've said this before, the difference between Fred Hoiberg and HCSF was one of them is adapting his coaching style and the game plan that he's putting out there. When Hoiberg first came in, it was a whole lot of, like let's transfer portal, let's flip the roster, and a lot of good players, but not a great team. And I feel like, even with the loss of like Bryce McGowan's, the overall team is better. So it's one of those addition through subtraction types of situations. So I'm excited for Fred Hoiberg going forward. So
I'm nervous. I think the loss of Derek Walker is going to be huge.
Yeah.
They essentially ran the offense through him. He was a great passer, and his ability to finish around the rim I'm like, he just keeps on making them, right? It's like he never missed. And so they're gonna have to figure out another way to score. But I have faith in Hoiberg.
Well, let's turn our attention now. Again, it's the off season, so hopefully, you've had about 40 minutes, viewers, listeners. You've had about 40 minutes of modern Nebraska athletic relative conversation. We're gonna go in a different direction. Like I said, we're going to Hollywood, and that is, with it being the off season, I said to Nate, Nate, compile a list of your favorite. Maybe give me I don't know, top 5. Fred, that's enough. Shame on you, sir. Give us give me your top 5 sports movie like moments. And
Okay.
and at least hopefully that's how you interpret it the first time around.
I thought you said climaxes, like the climax.
Yeah. I'm sorry, that's what I meant. The competitive element on the field, on the court, on the ice, if it may be. So I'm gonna let you start with your number 5, Nate. What?
We're not gonna do honorable mentions, or we do that before the number 1.
We do that before number 1. I have 5 honorable mentions, by the way.
Okay. So,
I was ready to go.
Okay, here we go. Number 5. Okay, so how are we going to? Okay, the number 5 is The Fighter. Yep,
that's convenient. That's the one that I put up accidentally previously.
Yeah, and so obviously spoiler alert and all that, but I guess the final moment I guess the climax of the movie is obviously the last fight, like it is in most boxing movies. And this Dick Uckland, I'm going to get it wrong. But anyways, Mark Wahlberg's character, and I'm blanking on it, which is obviously not the one in front of you, but it was kind of a washed up but kind of figuring out this boxing and all that, and he's competing for a championship, and his coaches have this plan, and he wasn't following the plan, and he's just getting the crap beat out of him through the first, I think, 5 rounds, maybe 6 rounds. And what his coaches didn't know was that his brother, who's in prison or jail at the time for drugs, who was a former great boxer, their local great boxer, was telling him to go body head, and letting his opponent punch himself out. And as they're essentially about ready to throw the fight out because Mark Wahlberg's character wasn't punching back, then all of a sudden he got body head, and then boom, he was down, and that's it. So it was first time I saw it, I was like, holy, it was pretty fun. Like I like boxing movies, and so that was probably my number 5.
My number 5, and this is going to be the only one I think on my list that could include a spoiler, but it was from last week's episode, the series finale for all intents and purposes. What?
Is it Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you 1 minute.
No, I'm not going to spoil it. I've done this enough. I've been around enough to know how to discuss things without spoiling. Now, if I put a picture up that is not from the pitch, will you accept that?
Sure, it's fine.
Okay, here we go. So it is the series or season 3 finale of Ted Lasso. Does that spoil anything for you?
Not yet. No.
Okay. No. So that's what is, and it's actually was the genesis of this entire topic, because I was thinking, I'm like, I don't know, it brought up a lot of the ending, and again, Nate, you don't have to walk away. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but it's like watching other sports movies where you're cheering and then you're recoiling. Without, I'm not, come back, Nate. I'm not spoiling anything. Oh, Nate's getting up to get a drink. And Fred says, Fred says the Ted Lasso finale was decent. I don't understand or care about soccer, but it was cool. So I enjoyed the show quite a bit. I think the third season was better than the second season, but nothing tops the first season.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's all I'm going to say, Nate.
Okay.
What's your number 4?
Number 4, Miracle, I guess. I don't know.
That's my number 4.
Yeah, it's everyone knows what happens, right?
Yeah,
and
1980 Winter Olympics, Lake Placid, New York.
Yep. And so I guess just do you believe in miracles? The part where things started to get louder and louder, and their teammates are like pounding because they're all getting excited, and then
right.
they finally win. And but one of my favorite scenes in that movie is when they're running lines or skating lines or whatever.
Yep.
What are you going to call it?
The legs feed the wolf.
And they just kept going back and who do you play for? And we'll say Ohio State, Wisconsin, whatever.
Minnesota,
they keep going back and forth.
Boston.
And mostly Boston, Minnesota, right? And then finally he goes, I play for the USA, and I'm like, that's pretty corny, but I like it.
No, it's good, and I like that. Because I was rewatching a lot of these, but they blend in Al Michaels from like basically doing his own play-by-play, from the movie, but they blend that in with the original play-by-play from 1980, and I thought that it was, I just thought it was well blended. So,
so that was your 4.
That was my 4 as well. So you're on to number 3.
Moneyball. Just the scene of Brad Pitt. He's lifting weights by himself because he never watches the game. And Chris Pratt's character comes in, essentially hits the game-winning home run for them to win. Was it the 26th game in a row or something? But Brad Pitt is, as I say, is lifting and all. Must have had it, the sound barely on it, and Chris Pratt hits the ball the ball off the bat, and then Brad Pitt's head pops up, and then there's the music and all that. So that's my number 3.
My number 3 is a little movie from 1976. I'm wondering if it's on your list anywhere. And I think what makes so many of these movies meaningful or special. And look, it's not just the ones that we're talking about. It's a lot of the growing up as a kid. Like in the 90s, it was like the golden age of kids sports movies because you had Rookie of the Year, you had Little Big League, you had Little Giants, and it's all about underdogs, right? And the ultimate underdog was this fella right here, Rocky Balboa. And look, I know in Rocky 1, he doesn't win the fight, but he did something that nobody ever did. He stood in there toe-to-toe with the champ, and it had to come down to a decision that obviously, spoiler alert for a movie that's almost 50 years old, Apollo Creed wins that decision. But I don't know, just I rewatched the movie here recently, and just the anticipation that is built because you don't expect this kid, this fighter from Philly to stand a chance, and he's relentless, and he gets knocked down, but he doesn't stay down. It's Rocky 1 is my number 3. It's in my top 5. I like Rocky 4 as a movie better, but I think it's got to start somewhere.
Was Rocky 4 the one where his kid's in it?
Rocky 4 is the one where he goes against Ivan Drago, and it's
that's 4. I thought that was 3. Okay,
no, that's 4. 3 is Clubber Lang, Mr. T.
Okay. So if you watch 4 again, the workout montage is pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
They have Ivan like these scientists and medical experts, and they're like he's a machine and all that, and then you cut to Rocky, and he's probably hitting a bag or running with weights or whatever it is. And so I thought it's pretty funny.
Terrell Farley's Taint says, well, he says Rocky 4 is so much better than Rocky 1 because he beats communism in Rocky number 4.
Okay.
And yeah, it's, he's like, he grabs a microphone and he's saying to this Russian, the Soviet audience into the world, he's like, if I could change, I'm not going to do a Rocky impression, then you can change. Maybe we all could change, that type of thing. So, yeah. I'm waiting for somebody to say Rocky 5 was the best one in the comments because I'm going to ban them for life. So that's my number 3. What's your number 2?
Warrior.
Oh, okay.
For
those of for the uninitiated, tell what Warrior's about.
Warrior is, I would say, it's kind of like, I'm not even really into the UFC, but it's the pictures here, these are 2 brothers, right? The one on the right, he's a teacher, a public school teacher. The one on the left, he is, I believe, Iraq or an Afghanistan war veteran. And there's this huge tournament, like UFC tournament, and they made it sound like it was the biggest one at the time. And you get into it, and then the winner, I think, wins a bunch of money, whatever. One side of the bracket, you have the teacher, the older brother. He's very technical, and like when he does his workouts, he's like listening to the classical music, and he's more into like submissions and stuff, like jiu-jitsu submissions. And then you have his brother who's in the military, and he just comes in 1 or 2 punches and destroys people. And of course, how the movie's going to go is they're going to meet in the championship, right? And you learn through the movie that his little brother essentially ran away from his unit, I think in Iraq, and he's dealing with a lot of demons, personal demons, whatever happened in war to him. And essentially he wasn't talking to his brother, and acts like, it's like when they meet and they actually fight, it's like he doesn't care that he's going to pound his brother. And in the end, the teacher, the older brother, has him, and I think it's in trying to think what submit. Essentially, if he finishes the submission, he's going to break his arm,
right?
An arm bar, and he's just begging his brother to tap. Please just tap, man. I don't want to do this. Don't want to do this. And his brother won't tap, and then it breaks his arm, and then they say he cries and he apologizes for everything, and then they kind of help each other off the mat and everything. So it's really powerful. Like when we made this list, I'm like, I want to watch that tonight. But
excellent. And Nick Nolte's really good in that movie as well. Yes. So my numero dos, for all of you in Espanol, is, and I think, I don't know if this is going to steal thunder from your number 1, but my number 2 is D2, the Mighty Ducks, when they go up against Iceland and they're in a shootout for, and again, it's the 90s. D2, the Mighty Ducks, came out in 94. It's just a magical time for, like I said, kids sports movies, but they're up again. It's basically a youthful telling of, the 1980 Olympics. You have this unstoppable juggernaut that happens to be from Iceland instead of Russia, and you have this ragtag group of a lot of Minnesota kids, but also from around the rest of the country, and they're going to battle for the championship of the Junior Goodwill Games and Hendricks hockey, and so that comes down to a shootout, and Coach Gordon Bombay goes to the bench and pulls in the cold goalie, Julie the Cat Gaffney from Bangor, Maine. Yes, I remember a lot of this. I've seen this movie a lot in my life. And to stop the tournament's top scorer, Gunnar Stahl from Iceland, the captain. And he gives her a little coach advice. He said, I know his move. It's a triple D glove side. And she says, well, what if he goes stick side? And Bombay says, he's fancy. He'll go glove. And, there's way too much drama in this after the puck is hit off the stick and like far more drama than whatever existed in an actual hockey game because like she takes all you hear is the sound of the slap shot and she does it go in the net? Does it go in the glove? You don't know. And then she takes a few, skates out a little bit from the crease and drops the puck on the ice and celebration and pandemonium. And I don't say grew up on that movie, but like I said, came out in 94. From 94 to 97, I probably watched that movie a dozen times. I don't know if that's good, bad, somewhere in between, but I'm owning it.
I like it.
All right. So before we get to our number ones, we have to get to some of the comments here, and then we'll get to our honorable mentions. Let's see. Terrell Farley's Taint says, if neither of you acknowledge the Jamaican bobsled team's first clean run where Sanka doesn't break the egg, I'll quit. He said running in, but he meant tuning in forever. And
I've never seen Cool Runnings. I never have. I'm not sure
you
why.
just lost some credibility with.
I know. I'm sorry. I would like to see it. You know what? And we're on this subject. You know what movie I watched for the first time this week? And now I'm. Oh, come on! I hate when it's the all-female baseball league.
League of Their Own.
Yeah, League of Their Own. I've never seen that.
So, you watched that for the first time?
I've never seen it. Yeah.
That movie's over 30 years old. I'm pretty sure.
I know it's Tom. This is before Tom Hanks was like the A-list actor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he was still on his way
fine.
up.
Oh. It was fine.
You said it was fine. It's good. There's no crying in baseball.
Yeah, I knew that line, and I expected it. I don't know. I'm just watching
Didn't have the context for it.
Yeah, I thought it seemed like kind of a throwaway line, but obviously it was one of the bigger ones. Yeah. So anyway, sorry about that.
You're fine. You're fine. Oh, hold on.
That's not fair.
That.
What?
Terrell Farley's Tate says, is Nate actually Brian Ferentz? No.
I wish yes. I am. I would like that paycheck, and I'd love to be the leader of that offense. And I'd love to have my dad there to pat me on the butt and say everything's okay when things aren't. So yes.
When Rome is burning around you?
Yeah.
That might be the harshest thing that anybody's ever said in the comments.
I
know. Fred says, can't remember specific climaxes, but I'd go with Rocky 1, Brian's song, 8 Men Out, Rudy, even though fuck Notre Dame, and Miracle.
I've never heard of 8 Men Out. Brian's song, doesn't he just die in the end? Or is that what?
Yeah, but come on. It's Gale Sayers, man, Omaha native. Or Gale Sayers is portrayed.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yep.
So
you're right. No, but isn't the other, because there's like two of them, right? Brian.
Yeah, James Caan plays Brian.
Okay. All right.
But I can't remember Brian's last name.
Okay.
I don't think he had a very long career. God, that's horrible. I'm going to hell for that one. All right. Terrell Farley's Tain says, Angels in the outfield when he adopts the kids is the best. That's a great one. Fred says, minor league, wild thing through the ball, like many a former Husker QB, never knew where it'd go. Not wrong. Sad but true. Terrell Farley's Tain says, D2 is the best of the Mighty Ducks franchise for sure. I don't disagree, Fred. Or Terrell, TFT. I'm going to start calling you TFT for short. I don't disagree. I think D2 is top-notch as far as that franchise. And then TFT says, Cool Runnings has to be number one on both lists, right? Well, we're not going to get to that number one yet. Nate, you had a couple of honorable mentions, and I, like I said, have 5.
So I just had 3, and mine were the 2 Mighty Ducks movies. because I think, is it the first one they go quack, quack, quack? Is that the first one? Is that the second one?
Yeah. Yes. The first one. I mean, they kind of do it in all of them, but yeah, it's just established in the first one.
In the D2, I do remember how like pumped I was when they had the USA jerseys and then they took them off and they put on the duck. Oh, that's pretty sweet.
That second intermission scene where they're saying Coach Bombay's like he says, Averman, where are you from? Minneapolis, Minnesota. Where are you from? He's just going down and they do the whole list. And he's like, and I'm Gordon Bombay, Minneapolis or St. Paul, Minnesota, whatever it was. And yeah, I'm getting chills right now thinking about it because we're all, ducks fly together. So we feel, I've never felt bad for Fred, but he says never seen Mighty Ducks movie and he's glad. So I don't know. Give it a shot. Fred, it's okay. It's okay to be a kid again.
So my other honorable mention was then Rudy.
Yep.
Which is I love that growing up. Just the whole Rudy, the idea of the whole stadium doing that, and but it's really corny. And a lot of these sports movies, if you look at it objectively, it's like that. They're extremely corny. But so I'll also throw that out there for honorable mention. Which I'm running in a race in about a month at the Notre Dame Stadium. So
really,
yep.
We'll have fun.
Yep.
Win the race.
No, I won't. But
fight the good fight.
Yes, I will.
Won the race. So my honorable mentions are from 1986 Hoosiers. You got the small rural kids going in there. The first thing they do when they get to the big arena is they drop the tape measure from the rim so you can say, hey, look, same height as back home. 1989's Major League. 2000 is The Replacements. And hear me out. Gene Hackman, Keanu Reeves, but you got the scab players, if you will, the players that nobody wanted going up against the team that's fully back, professional. I don't know. There's just something about it. It's and it's got a good soundtrack. I think, yeah, as I mentioned, from 2000, another one from 2000, but it's a period piece, and I can't believe it's not on your list. Remember the Titans.
It's Remember the Titans. I watched that with my son probably about a month ago.
Yeah,
he really liked it. I loved it when it came out. When I was talking about thinking about climaxes at the end, and I just didn't think the climax was as great. I guess I don't know.
We got to stop using the word climax because our comments.
Oh, I know they like it though. I think.
Who doesn't? Never mind. I'm not gonna. Yes, and then my last honorable mention is from 1999. It's another high school football movie, and it is Varsity Blues.
What's the climax though? Where he? Never mind. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say the climax is they win the division title without the coach. They kicked him out at halftime.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And again, because it's an MTV movie from the late 90s, so it has a pretty good soundtrack. Foo Fighters' My Hero comes to mind quite a bit. So a couple more highlights here or in the comments. TFT says nobody's going to mention Sandlot. For me, the climax of Sandlot's not on the field. It's defeating the beast and getting the ball back and then they jump forward in time, and then Fred says Any Given Sunday, so campy but a wild, ridiculous movie. Yeah, when somebody's getting their eye gouged out and it's on the the turf, that one stays with me.
I think Any Given Sunday, that's the best coach's speech, like pregame speech in sports history, or movie history.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Well, we're here to it now. What's your number one?
My number one is Cinderella Man, and so It's based off of a true story. James Braddock is another boxer, but it's during the Great Depression, and he was a kind of a has-been. Essentially, had to get back into fighting in order to feed his family. There's a scene in that movie that, like, who are you fighting for, or what are you fighting for? And he's like, to put bread on the table or to feed my family. And the scene that always got me towards the end, before the last big fight, is his wife, who just can't watch him. Because they were afraid that he was going to get killed in the ring, and she goes to their local Catholic church, and she's like, "There's the priest there," and he said, or she's like, "I'm here to pray for James or Jimmy," and then the scene turns, and there's all and the priest goes, "Everyone here is to pray for Jimmy." And so that was the really cool scene as far as like how important that was to them.
Yep.
And then then the actual fight at the end, you don't know who won, right? And it comes down to the decision, and then they go, it's unanimous. The new, heavyweight champion or whatever, and then the crowd just goes nuts. You don't even get to hear him say his name. And so that's my number one. Cinderella
Nice.
Man.
Very nice. While you were talking about that, we did have someone in the comments said that Joel Tilson said Cinderella Man is a great movie. Fred says forgot about Cinderella Man, really good. Still prefer Raging Bull just a bit more. Joel Tilson says we love you, Jimmy. Cinderella Man there. James Boardman said The Natural. Natural's great too.
I don't know if I've seen that one. So
Robert Redford, you trust me, you know it. I'll give you my Prime Video password because I own it digitally, and you can watch that. Don't get carried away buying anything. I know where you live. TFT says Friday Night Lights. Anyone? Friday Night Lights is good. The only downside with Friday Night Lights is that it doesn't get the team all the way. I mean, I've read the book. I've seen the movie. Permian Panthers or something like that. West Texas, oil country. They're already a powerhouse, so it doesn't have that like underdog come from behind quality. Don't even start, Fred. But they also lose, if I remember correctly, the game. So the championship. And then somebody mentioned The Rookie, which I believe Dennis Quaid, which is really good. No. Okay, sorry. Is that because it's a Disney movie?
No, I just, I'm not a big Dennis Quaid fan. I don't know. Maybe.
TFT says The Big Green While About a Dog Shit Sport is a great movie. Again, one of those 90s kids sports movies. Fred says, kind of surprised no one mentioned Field of Dreams. Custom designed to get the feels. And Blue Chip, the program, there's a lot of them. TFT says Nate doesn't watch Cool Runnings and runs for fun. It's all making sense now. I don't know if you caught that one earlier. And
I'll watch it, I promise.
You better. It's on Disney Plus, I believe. I don't know if you have that streaming service. You have children, so I'd assume you do. And then Fred says Greg has climaxed more tonight than our former head coach after an accidental win. Pump the brakes, okay? But I'm going out of town this weekend with my wife, so I'm not saying. All right, so we've got your 5 and your honorable mentions. We've got 4 of mine and my honorable mentions. You took a little piss out of mine. My number 1 because it was one of your honorable mentions, but my number 1 is Rudy, and I know people will say, "Oh, Notre Dame." No, Rudy, for whatever reason, it's my favorite movie of all time, and I'm a huge nerd. So like you think like, oh, the Avengers or the Dark Knight or something like that. For whatever reason, I always come back to Rudy. I don't need to tell a story. I know, yes, some of it was fictionalized. He didn't have that antagonistic brother, but he was carried off the field. So right or wrong.
Didn't he die like soon afterwards?
No, he was like a motivational speaker.
Or did he die, or was he an alcoholic or something? I thought like he could. I don't know. Did Rudy die?
He's 74 years old.
Never. I thought I heard that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rudy.
He's been married to Cheryl since 1996, according to Google. So, yeah. Like, I don't know, just the whole drama around it, was. There's actually a fun video I watched on YouTube a few nights ago, or maybe a week ago. It's been now, I don't know. And it's on Notre Dame Fighting Irish YouTube channel, and they tell get former teammates and whatnot of Rudy telling the story. He's like, that scene where everybody's going in and laying their jersey on Dan Devine's desk, saying, "I want him to have my spot, coach." They're like, "I worked too damn hard for that jersey. I'm not giving it up." Giving it up. So, yeah, so I know it just, for whatever reason, I think it'll always capture my, I don't know. I could be laying down to start the movie and I'll hit play. And when it gets to, the end, when he's getting ready for that game, I'm sitting up and sometimes I'll stand up. I don't know. It's I'm dumb. Never mind. Well, this was fun.
Well, the music, Fred Sacco. Sorry if I mispronounced your last name. The musical score was great. Yeah, I used to have that when we had the first like iPods. Mm-hmm. I used to have that soundtrack on there, and then I also had the coach's speech from Native and Sunday on there too.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I get pumped up for a workout. I'd listen to either of those. So
very good, very good. Well, this was fun, Nate, and hope you had a good time. Thanks for joining me.
Just glad my internet worked.
Yeah, you were concerned. You're like, I don't know, I get lag and whatnot. I think we'll just blame John. He's not here.
I'm fine with that.
And as always, you, the good Chatterfields who join us each and every week, Thursdays at 9:00. We appreciate you. Sorry I wasn't here last week. I don't know. For those of you who don't remember, like last week's 9:00 show, which is late already, didn't start till about 9:20 because nobody could find me. I had a 6:00 appointment that honestly I expected to be done by like 7:30. And I was still there at 10:00, but my phone died, so I couldn't even message John and be like, "You're gonna have to start without me." So we appreciate everybody sticking around last week for the late edition. Talk about Coronation or Five Heart After Dark, and for everybody who joined us on time and under budget today, we appreciate you greatly. We'll see you next week. I should be here. I don't know about Nate. But if his internet's working, who knows? Nate with cooperative internet is a dangerous man. So when's that run in at South Bend?
It's a Spartan race. It's July 8th, 7th or 8th or 9th, the Saturday, whatever that Saturday is.
Well, good luck with that.
My kids are running in it too, so.
I'll have just turned 41 and I'll be trying not to die of a bad knee, bad back, whatever it would be. So, all right. So for Nate McHugh, for everybody at Coronation, I'm Greg Mahochko. This has been another episode of the Five Heart Podcast, where we remind you each and every week that Five Heart is all the heart you need. Nate,
go Cubs, go!
You take that back.
Go Big Red.
Thank you. God. This is, you know what? You're suspended.
I'm never allowed back. I know that.
No, you'll be allowed back because I'll be in a pinch sometime and I'll be like, Nate, what you doing?